Ahoy! And welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick and I want to thank you for joining us here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m. Please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com and now on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Thanks to our sponsors for the show today. For a healthy gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. And Raycom Radios, reliable two-way commercial communication throughout Southern California. Raycom Radios. Today, I have our weather and what are we going to say, Dave? My guest, David Estes from the Mahalo Robalo. We're going to do a wind and weather and a fish report today.
That would be great.
It's exciting to have you. You're going to be real proud of me. I made some friends at the Hall show, in my last week's show, with the Sunset Yacht Insurance brokers, and they had a booth, and they invited me to go fishing with them. I'm going to go fishing with them, and they're going to take a look at my boat and insure it. I'm going to go with this. It's a young company. They come from a family of insurance brokers, and they started it to fill the gap and give some personalized and coverage and attention to the yachties. So fishing boats, sailing boats, yachts, small boats, big boats. And it's the two young sons of two families of insurance brokers. So Sunset Yacht Insurance.
I can't wait to meet them.
Yeah, I'm going to go fishing with them, and they're going to take me out and then teach me a little bit, and then I'll report to you, so you're going to be real proud of me. So I was at the Hall Outdoor Adventure Show, the fishing outdoor fishing and boating show now. It was
Fred's son.
Fred's son. Well, Bart Hall was my guest on New Year's. He was my New Year's show, and he talked.
Right.
Yeah, he talked about all the way back to 1947 when his dad started the shows, and it was, of course, Fred Hall for a long time, then Bart Hall, and now the Hall Outdoor Adventure Boating and Fishing Show. So that's what they're called right now. Pomona was a couple weeks ago where they just had boats. And this was an exciting show because there was a lot of inventory there. I fell in. The nicest boat was the Chris Craft, very expensive center console boat that I fell in love with, 24 foot on a trailer. However, the surprise of the show, and everyone I talked to said the Robalos are the best made boats, the most reliable boats on the market today. And they had an 18-foot trailerable boat. They had a couple boats under $100,000, which shocked me. And then, of course, a lot of big boats and pilot house and fishing boats. So I had no idea that the Robalos are one of the best boats out there on the market today.
Well, I've had mine for 19 years now. I bought it new. I've not had to do a whole lot to it, and I just keep going. It's an amazing craft. What's great about the Robalo is you can get the deep cut, or you can get the Northwest version, which will really take you through the bigger waves. But the Robalo was originally made for the coast of Florida because it only has about an 18-inch draft.
Oh, interesting.
Even though it weighs 10,000 pounds.
So a heavy boat. So I'm going to need to get. I can't tow it in my car. I'm going to have to get a truck.
Well, that center console isn't going to be as heavy as mine, but yes, they are heavy, and that's why everyone loves them, because of the ride. When you go through a wave, you're not doing the bam bam.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. So you can get different hulls for it.
Yes.
Well, that's important to me because I want to make as small wake as I can. My goal is to be in race regattas, to take pictures, to be able to go to Catalina, Redondo Beach for lunch. But then I also want to start exploring going fishing. And that's kind of my goal, to see if I can actually become a fisherman after all these years.
I can't wait.
Well, the show had a lot of fishing. Miles, who was on the show, was promoting the Halibut Derby in Marina Del Rey. The Marina Del Rey anglers had a booth there. That was my favorite fishing. Turner's, of course, had a big footprint, and you saw all kinds of people walking around with their brand new rods. So it was a really good fishing show. It was a great boating show. A little bit smaller than expected. So there's a lot of activity that we're planning on for next year. I'm going to be working with Bart Hall, trying to bring the sailors in. I'm going to try to bring the scouts in. Raycom's committed to doing some classes on everything from ham radio to wide commercial radios for business. So we're going to have an exciting footprint, hopefully take up a whole nother hall.
Oh, I sure hope so. I know they need to grow.
Yeah, they definitely do. All right, let's talk about wind, water, and weather, and then we'll do a fish report, because I'm very anxious to something I didn't know. I since I was a young kid from here, I'm always familiar with the Santa Anas. We know they're coming, but I never really knew, what caused the Santa Anas, how often it comes. So educate me a little bit about Santa Anas and why this this last Santa Anas was such a disaster.
Well, it was a disaster. The basic premise of the Santa Anas is you have two highs that are squeezing a low. And the two highs are set up here over Los Angeles, and they're set up over Colorado.
Oh, wow.
And as those two highs get larger, it squeezes the air, and that's what causes the friction. And so the air, the jet stream usually goes from the west coast to the east coast, but those two high pressures, they make the wind change, and it comes south. And when it comes south, it goes across the valleys, the deserts, and then those passes, and so it squeezes and it heats. And that's why sometimes we have 80-degree winds at 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I've never quite understood that, because, when you're sailing, you kind of look forward to the Santa Anas. Wind comes from another direction. It's beautiful blue skies, and you've got some, warm weather. But I guess if it's coming across the desert, and this, of course, well, why was these Santa Anas such a disaster? Because we've had high winds often.
Well, we actually had a third high pressure that was set up over New Mexico. And so the winds had nowhere to go. They literally just turned and ran right at us.
Wow. What can we do what can we do in the future, or what are they talking about in the future to prevent anything like this? Because like I said, I've known Santa Anas forever. I know that people, they clear the brush, they plan for it. We have Santa Anas throughout the year. How often do we have Santa Anas? Because I always thought it was just, the end of winter and the middle of summer.
No, we have Santa Anas that's set up throughout the year. There can be as many as 30.
Oh, no.
And sometimes there can be as little as 4. It's just a matter of where we are on the ocean and how these highs and lows set up.
Oh, interesting. But it comes down from and across the desert. Well, they used to call them the devil winds. I know there's a little folklore.
Yes,
and
that's right, because it makes everybody crazy.
But that goes back to the Chumash Indians. They called them the devil winds.
Right. You could never do any negotiations during the devil winds. In the tribal days.
Oh, interesting. So what are we planning? What can we do? What are we planning to do to prevent any future disaster of this magnitude, in the future when Santa Anas are coming upon us? By the way, I knew at the turn of the year, New Year's, because we were talking about canceling regattas, and we were looking, at the future winds in the Santa Anas. So it didn't really come as a shock and a surprise, because weather reports talked about it. But what can we do to kind of mitigate or negate such a disaster in the future? What are they planning on doing?
Well, again, you have to go into the conservation corps, the clearing of the brush, all the fire roads, and the access needs to be faster to these fire roads. and they have to be maintained so that we can place people there. And then, of course, we have to have the water, and the water is probably the most important thing. And I believe hopefully we've learned our lesson, and we will set up more reservoirs, strategically that are with elevation, so we can have the water in our hydrants.
And getting out there, a little preventive measures, because once the winds are honking at 75 miles, the planes can't fly. So we got to get out there, a little bit early, and do some fire retardant, and get people ready, get the engines out there. Boy, I tell you, I really hope we've learned our lesson. I hope we can get some volunteer fire crews going. I know a lot of members are part of CERT, and they ended up not mobilized. They were ready to volunteer. So I hope they do just a myriad of things to negate any of this. And I really
well part of what we also have to do is when these fires start, we have to let them burn. We got to let them go through their stuff if it's safe to do so. Okay. Especially when we don't have these winds, because if there's no fuel, there's no fire.
Right. There's no fuel. You let them burn before the winds come up and do some stuff. That'll be, if there are some volunteer measures and efforts, I might volunteer for that. Let's talk about how this affected what's going out with the in the oceans. And is the oceans going to be able to gobble this up, or are we going to be dealing with this for a long time?
No, the oceans are going to gobble this up without any problem. The ocean's huge. There are some things that have gone into the ocean that's not nice, and they have shut down, the beaches and stuff accordingly, and thank goodness they've done that. They're probably saving a lot of people's throats and
Sure.
and bronchial flaps and that kind of thing. The ocean will take care of itself. Most of these heavy toxins will sink. They will go to the bottom. They will be covered with silt. They'll be encapsulated. And then the stuff that floats, thank goodness it's floating, because it's waterlogged and it's not vaporizing. And if it is vaporizing, it's not to the extent of what we're seeing right now, which is every time the sun comes out, we get this vapor layer, and then whichever way the wind blows, that's going into people's lungs. So hopefully the ocean takes care of most all of this for us. And typically, most of our runoff now goes into the sewer system anyway. It really doesn't make it to the ocean.
So it's going to the Hyperion plant, right, El Segundo?
Yes, and they will cook it down and make it hot, and then they'll purify it, and then they ship it out about 5 miles out before out into the ocean. And everybody thinks that this, all these raw sewage things and all that stuff happens, and it's terrible and all this. Well, think about hundreds of trillions of gallons of water as opposed to 10,000 gallons of, what they're calling raw sewage, which really isn't raw sewage. It's mostly gray water.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it has fertilizer in it and that kind of thing. And a lot of that actually gets eaten relatively quick by everything that's growing in our ocean now, because we have lots of life out in our ocean.
Yeah, when I had the gentleman that talked about the bass fisheries, he told me that we've had more life now, with all the efforts and the measures that have been taken over the years. We restocked the bass, and we're looking good, and we're plentiful in the oceans, more life and cleaner oceans than ever before.
Well, in the 80s, we had, we used to do all these surveys and stuff. We have a particular acre of ocean floor that we look at, and there were less than 100 living things in this acre, and now there's over 30,000.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. I had no idea.
And this is over the course of, 40 years. So life is definitely expanding in our ocean. It is not contracting.
That's good. And I know the people that run fish tournaments, and I've gone to the Westwood Sportsman Hunting and Fishing Club at the Santa Monica Elks. And that, again, is Miles is part of that for the Marina Del Rey Anglers. And they've talked about how fishing has come back, and the fishing tournaments are exciting. People are out there, and I'll be promoting the Halibut Derby coming up in Marina Del Rey. Let's talk a little bit. Let's do a fish report. What's going on in our oceans, and what are people catching, and do they have to worry at all about a toxic environment?
I don't think there's too much concern about that. I mean, I wouldn't eat the fish every day for weeks on end for a couple of months, but I once or twice a week, I don't think it's going to hurt you if you're out there catching your own fish. And right now, the whitefish, the sculpin, the halibut, the bass, the perch, those are your target species right now. Everything else is closed till another couple of weeks, and then that's going to open up again.
Wow, okay, that's exciting. You know something, from one of the booths, I got some charts of fish from the one of the environmental groups out there, and I thought I knew a couple of. I'm learning my fish, so I thought I knew sculpin, and then I got a chart of, I don't know how many, a dozen different kinds of sculpin.
Yeah, there's a couple of different kinds.
I had no idea.
Typically, in our oceans, we have what's called a scorpion fish.
Is that why I poked my? When I grabbed it the wrong way, I poked myself?
Yes, yeah, and that's like a hot soldering iron for about 12 hours.
Yeah.
And it goes on and off, so you think it's going away, but then it comes back. Yeah, not a lot of fun to be poked by a sculpin.
But they're bottom fish, right?
Yes.
So what are the rules on bottom fishing? How does that differ from? There's like a cycle now. You used to be able to bottom fish, and now you need the right season. Tell me about bottom fishing.
Okay, so when the season opens back up, we will be able to fish here in Southern California. We will be able to fish under 300 feet for the first 3 months. And then the next 3 months, we will be able to fish anywhere we want. There's no depth limit. And then after that, you can't fish for bottom fish except over 300 feet.
Oh, interesting. How deep are the oceans in the Santa Monica Bay?
Well, you get out into Redondo Canyon, it goes to about 1,200 feet, and you get out into Santa Monica Canyon, it's about 1,100. So, there's a pretty good depth, and then as soon as you get right outside the bay, there's the continental shelf, and it drops off to 3,000 feet.
Oh my goodness! What about right outside Marina Del Rey when I'm on the dock?
When you're on the dock, it's only about 20 feet.
Oh, okay. What about off the piers, like Santa Monica Pier, Redondo Piers?
You'll get to about 25 feet.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. Yeah. All right. I had no idea that we were so deep. What about like around Catalina? Does it get deeper there?
Yes. Well, it depends on where you're at, because they do have a beach shelf out there, and then they have rock drop-off. And the rock drop-off will, quickly go down to 3,000 feet, because it is just a mountain out there. Yeah. And it just drops straight off. And then you'll have a little beach that if you get on the sand, and that'll run for a while, and it'll get down to about, maybe 200, 250 after about a half mile.
I'm having on my show, on my bucket list, my short bucket list, maybe this summer, gonna get. I've got a scuba. Somebody from the Coast Guard Auxiliary is gonna train me to get scuba. So I want to go to Farnsworth Bank. I want to go behind Catalina, one of the hot spots, one of the great dive spots in the world, and I want to see what all this hubbubaloo is about. People say
it's 100-foot visibility on a good day, and the life out there is just so plentiful. You'll see everything there is to see in the ocean, it's you can't even imagine how beautiful it is.
Well, I want to do that in Catalina. I've got a couple of invites, and of course, my friends that I've made from a lot of the different, a lot of fishermen are scuba guys.
Yes.
And I want to, get the proper permits and, free dive for some lobsters. So that's on my short list, and want to start hitting Catalina again. Well, before we go, let's talk a little bit about the good stuff that's coming, because a lot of our Central Coast and even Lake Mead out, Nevada. So they were dry for a while, and now they're filling up, and that's good news for everybody. So tell me how that happened and what we got to look forward to. Central Coast, where all our farmers are.
Right. Yeah. The water has come, and we're getting these, what everybody refers to as atmospheric river again. So we're getting a lot of snow up in the mountains, and that's going to fill up our streams and our creeks and our reservoirs. And we're much, much better today than we used to be at saving water. We used to just throw it all out in the ocean. And today because of what we've been through the last few years, our water table has come up about 40 feet. So when I was in like 1970, the water table was at 20 feet in my hometown, which was Visalia, and it got down as far as 180 feet. Oh, and now it's sitting at about 120.
All right, that's good news. So I'm always
and that big thing they call Tulare Lake Basin.
Yes,
that's a wonderful thing to refill all our aquifers.
Wasn't that one of the biggest bodies of water in California?
Well, sure, yes, absolutely. But it only comes around every once in a while, lasts for 3, 4, maybe a decade, and then we don't see it again until we have another incredible season of water.
Well, I hope we learn from this. I hope we fill up the Palisades reservoir. 150 million gallons.
That would be a good idea.
and the next time, do a little preventive measures and send some fire engines out there with water. So my heart goes out to everybody that was affected and lost their homes. I know a few. Oh my goodness, how many people That's your neighborhood.
It is. Yeah, I'm probably close to 2,500 people that I'm aware of.
Well, Dave Estes from the Mahalo Robalo. Soccer coach, fisherman, knows everybody out there. You said all my love to everybody that's in your circle. And I want to thank you for coming back on the show. And this is exciting. And we'll do this again after I have a report, when I go out with my buddies from Sunset Yacht Insurance. All
right. Well, I can't wait to see you. And say hello to everybody for me.
Yeah, you do the same. Well, that's all the time that we have for you today. I hope you enjoyed our show. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful and exciting guests. And I want to thank David Estes, Mahalo Robalo, for the wind, weather, and fishing report. So it's been great having you. Remember, let's not forget the Coasties, protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. You can get your boater's card from classes that the Coast Guard Auxiliary does. Just give them a call at Coast Guard Auxiliary, cgaux.org. Get your boater's card. Remember, if you do it right and follow the guidelines and safety precautions, there's no place like being out on the water in the fresh air and sunshine in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Thanks to our sponsors for our show today. For a healthy gut, Livia One Probiotics. And on the main page, the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour has a nice link. Livia One, go right to their website. And Raycom radios, reliable two-way radios throughout Southern California without drop zones and dead batteries and all the inherent limitations of all other communication systems. And let us know if you're interested. We're going to be doing seminars from ham radio to working with the Scouts. And if you're in business, you want Raycom radios. Don't forget to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com. Now on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Keep your emails coming. You can reach me at CaptainRick@theboatinghour.com. CaptainRick@theboatinghour.com. Keep tuned to our show all month of May, we're going to be featuring Fleet Week, Boater Safety Week, Coast Guard Auxiliary, the Armed Forces Parade down in Torrance, and of course the Battleship Iowa in San Pedro on Memorial Day. This is Captain Rick saying ahoy and fair winds to all.